As we reported last night, the government's Newspoll numbers are in free fall, following Julia Gillard's announcement that she'll bring in a carbon tax. The question now is what the government can do to bring the once supportive public back behind plans to curb the country's carbon output, especially at a time when the opposition's message opposing the tax appears to be hitting its mark. Political correspondent Tom Eagleton reports.
Julia Gillard had a present for President Obama, an Australian football and a one-on-one coaching clinic.
Thank you very much. Welcome.
He in turn had a gift for her, public praise.
I have to say that from a distance at least, she is doing an outstanding job.
That's not the judgment of many Australian voters, according to the latest Newspoll. Labor's primary vote is at 30%, the lowest since Newspoll began. And Julia Gillard's satisfaction rating is falling quickly, down 11 points in just a fortnight. The key turning point was her carbon tax announcement, but she's not backing away from the plan.
My view remains that we shouldn't try to lead the world, but neither can we afford to limp behind. We have a high emissions economy.
Nice to see you.
Despite the fact that the Obama administration's abandoned plans for now to bring in carbon pricing,
Happy birthday to you.
Julia Gillard's trying to convince voters she's on the same page as other world leaders.
President Obama has said to the American people that he is focused on a clean energy future, and so am I for Australia.
Tony Abbott was visiting a school closer to home and singing a very different song. His visit to Strathcona Girls Baptist School was to mark International Women's Day.
3 million women every year are exposed to the risk of genital mutilation.
But his main message was focused on the carbon tax and countering the government's accusations that he's running a scare campaign.
I'm running a truth campaign against the carbon tax. Because the truth campaign appears to be having an impact, I imagine that they will run an ad campaign, because the one thing that these guys specialise in is ad campaigns using taxpayers' money.
From time to time we advertise to get necessary information to people, so I'm not going to rule in or rule out government advertising in the future.
But a pro-carbon tax ad campaign runs the risk of making the Prime Minister look hypocritical.
Mr Howard has claimed today that these advertisements aren't political. These ads are political ads. They're meant to help the government. They should be paid for by the Liberal Party, not Australian taxpayers.
Now that Julia Gillard's the Prime Minister with a controversial plan to sell, she can't afford to rule out anything if she's to bring the Australian public back on side with Labor's plans to price carbon. One of her messages is likely to be that Australia's not going it alone when it comes to action on climate change.
Well, that's always quite surprising for somebody coming from Europe, where we've had a carbon price across Europe, so that's 500 million people in Europe have had a carbon price since 2005.
The opposition says Europe's carbon system is different to the one being proposed by the government, but Jill Duggan says whatever the system, Australians have little to fear.
The experience in Europe has been that actually the drive to a low-carbon economy has created more jobs. I'm not aware of any jobs that have been lost as a result of the imposition of a carbon price.
Yet another voice in an increasingly complicated debate. Tom Eagleton, Late Line.